Hey, everybody, welcome to Office Hours, where we assemble every single day right here to answer your media and tech-related production questions. Jason Bache in Albuquerque, New Mexico is reading for us today. So, Jason, what do we got?
Kyle Hammond in Chicago, Illinois asks, I've been putting it off for a while, but now I think I need a KVM. Which ones do you prefer and why?
And Courtney Gooden is going to start us off on the journey. Courtney?
Well, it depends, because it depends on A, how many computers and or monitors do you need to hook up? Do you need the USB control? Do you need other signals going between them? Audio? Is it going to control audio as well? So you got to pick one that works for you, and they range in all types of prices. I use IO Gear. I've used these for years because they make a definitely large number of them, everywhere from these $350 ones that are built into little boxes to ones that just have the wires and a module that you can plug in so that they don't take up a lot of desk space. You can put them in back of things, priced anywhere from $79 to $400. They make them for almost every occasion. And it also depends on whether or not you need to remotely access them or if it's just going to be for locally switching between computers and monitors. If you don't need to access them over the internet, check out IO Gear. They've got a huge selection.
Alex Lindsay.
I've had quite a few of them. As Courtney said, it depends. How many computers? What kind of control do you need? Do you need to pass the video and the? For me, I only need the keyboard, so mine's a little bit simpler. But if this is the one that I have right now, it's not available anymore. But you can see I purchased it in August of 2023, so I've had it for a couple of years. It's sitting here right in front of me. A couple things about it. It has 4 ports, which is useful for me to have different keyboards and mice and everything else that are wired into it, either via RF or via wired. RS-232, so that means that I could, I can dream. I keep thinking someday I'm going to actually automate this with RS-232, but I haven't done it yet. So it has that there. It is flat on the top, no buttons on the top, which means I can stack my my little USB Mix Pre 3 sits right here on top of it. So having a platform there was important. So those are some of the things that I kind of thought about as I put that together. It can do 4K 30. I don't really need that, but I wanted to make sure I could do at least some 4K solution there. And it wasn't very expensive when I bought it. It had one downside, which is that every time you push the button, it made a big loud noise. I found to correct that, I had to open it up and rip the PZO out. And I'd love to say that I did it nicely. I just took pliers and peeled it off, and then it didn't make any noise anymore.
Next question.
Andre Delay in Berlin asks, I just received a mail with the latest news of Audinate Iris, a remote PTZ system that is new to the Audinate family. Thoughts? And he includes the link, tryiris.ai.
I don't know much about the Audinate Iris system, and it doesn't look like this is one of the days where we have a lot of people. I will tell you in general. Oh, wait a second. We just had some last-minute hands raised. Alex, dive in.
Yeah, so this is here's what we got here. So the here's the PTZ system that you have here. I think this is a PTZ controlling system, so it's working. I don't think it's an actual camera itself. It's just, it looks like actually a fairly, it's got a bunch of tools that are using. Now, my guess is that what's happening here is that this is using Visca or other controls to get to the PTZ. Again, this is brand new, so we're all kind of learning as we go. But using a lot of image analysis within the app to figure out what you want to do there. It looks like what they're really trying to do is, rather than trying to build the cameras, really try to figure out how to control the cameras intelligently.
Zach Jeffers, you have some thoughts?
Yeah, so I think we've brought this up before, but the software seems to infer that it's receiving remote connections from the cameras, doing shading, doing various different components, even recording, and camera sync. So I think it's an actual service to where you need to actually have enough bandwidth for all your feeds to go out to the cloud and then come back down to whatever you're doing. So I would keep that in mind. They don't really have a lot of information on the website per that information, but it does seem to be more of a remote hybrid service.
Okay. Well, Andre, come back after a little bit of time, and if more people ask us about it, we'll learn more and more about it and pass it along. Next question.
Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York asks, my old eyes aren't easily seeing into the back of my racks anymore. What lights would the panel recommend to mount inside racks to easily see connections and cables?
Zach Jeffers is going to start us off here. Zach?
Yeah, so with the racks that we've built in the past, we've tried the Furmans with the pull-out lights. We've tried just using various different components like magnetic flashlights and stuff like that. But what I've really kind of settled in on is putting in LED strip around the cage of the rack and then having an on-off switch. And they normally have like a little fader or something like that. But basically white LED strip on the inside, a simple 12-volt power supply, and a switch, and that makes it visible for everybody in every nook and cranny of the back, and also makes you look, when you have multiple racks set up at the venue, makes you look really, really cool.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, I concur. I've put LED strips. These you can get these 12 volters in cut to length, and they're just white. This is 6,000 K, so nice bright white. You put them on the inside lip of the case in the back, pointing inward, and that way they're not shining in your eyes and blinding you, and they illuminate everything back there nicely. I put them in the front and the back of the case. In the front, hidden down behind a little strip of black plastic to keep them from shining in your face, and then I have a switch. I can go front lights, back lights, front lights, back lights. So if I got to work in the back, I flip them from the front to the back. And all you need is a 12-volt supply with maybe 2 amps or 3 amps to supply them, depending upon how many of those you're going to cut to length. But they work great, illuminate nice and evenly, don't cast a lot of shadows. And, you can stick your hand in there to do something and you don't block out half the light if you're using just a regular point source light.
Alex Lizzie.
Number 3 for the little LED strips. Remember, you can get those ones that you can just cut. So you can get it to where you want it to the length. You get to the end of it, you just cut it off. And we use them in all the racks that we build. We build those into the inside.
Zach Jeffers.
I just want to thank Courtney for the visualization of him doing a light switch rave on his rack during the show.
Very nicely done. I also have another thing. Since my eyes are also getting less sensitive to light as I get up in my upper years. I've discovered that ball caps, there are new little lights you can clip onto the brim of your ball cap, and rather than lighting the device, sometimes if I'm going to be working in moderate light area, I have that plus a couple of headband lights that I keep around me. And if I'm going to work like under a desk or something like that, I don't mess with what's there. I just bring my own, clip on either one of those ball cap lights or put on the headset light, and man, it lights up everything. And there are a lot of those, and they're pretty cheap now. So that's another option for you. Next question.
Zach Jefferson, Spokane, Washington asks, Sony released the all-new A7V camera body today. As the industry has been focused on small cinema bodies, is this a return to form for more hybrid shooters? And he includes the B&H link. Alex,
to take a look at this.
Yeah, I guess for hybrid shooters, it just seems like, our world is so video driven that you kind of look at something going, oh, it's another, like I'm kind of getting very close to being over the SLR form factor. Like I still use the the Blackmagic 6Ks, and I have, I've got the form factors. I have an FX30 that I'm using this for. But when as a video shooter, I think you just have to decide what you want to do. I think halfway in between is frustrating when it comes to building cages around these and building all the systems that you need around them. They're really annoying, as a video product. And so I guess I would say that at the same price point, at this point, I'd lean, unless I really need the autofocus, I would probably lean into a Pixis over this at the same price point, just because I don't need it's pretty limited in the frame rate. So when you look at it, it's got a 33 megapixel, which is great, but it also is limited to, I think, 4K 30 or something like that. It's not particularly high performance. So if you're a wedding videographer that wants to shoot video too, it might make sense. But if you're in video, I just don't know at that price point whether it's competitive anymore.
Zach Jeffers, you want to get in?
Yeah, just to make sure we cover the specs for those that are interested. Like Alex said, 33 megapixel. It has the new XR2 focus processing, and it does AI, character recognition and they have all the different settings now where they didn't used to. So that has person, car, animal, dog, cat, whatever the case may be. But it does do, if you go to the specs, it does 4K 60, and it'll do 4K 120 with a crop. It'll do 1080, 200, and 240 at 1080 on a crop as well, and it'll do full 10-bit and all that stuff. So it will be a slower sensor than maybe a video-centric body. It'll have rolling shutter, all that stuff. But just to cover the bases for those that were interested in that kit.
Next question.
Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia asks, when the panelists share content, are you using an ATEM or something else?
Jason Beish, turn around and tell us.
Yeah, almost all of us are, and it's just, switch on, switch off, and that's it.
Yeah, it was a big change in my life for the better. Courtney Gooden?
Yep, I also have an ATEM Mini Pro. That the nice thing with the Mini Pro is that you have a separate switcher. So I've got the HDMI output out of my Mini Pro hooked up to a second portable monitor that's on the left, and I use that for research and for getting stuff ready to put up on the air. And that way I can switch between the different outputs on my computer, different monitor outputs on my single computer. That way I can slide my mouse over and control the one that goes on the air, and then slide it back and then control the zoom window with just a single mouse and a single computer, and it works great with an ATEM Mini.
Chris Fenwick is next.
Tony, it's always good to have a contrarian. I'm the one who uses OBS. I do have an ATEM in front of me that I use as a recorder, but it also becomes the converter from my edit system into my broadcast computer. But I switch everything from a Stream Deck using OBS. And yes, it does work on a Mac. Blah, 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 blah.
Zach Jeffers.
I was just thinking about this question and like where it originates for me. I have a Mini Extreme ISO that I purchased in 2019, 20, somewhere 20. And it was for the purpose of doing podcasting during the transition of my career into kind of the off-road segment. And I had that teamed up with an audio interface and all this other stuff, but it's been sitting collecting dust until I built my Zoom kit for the coming on the show and doing that stuff. But it got me thinking about, is the ATEM Mini a COVID era product that's starting to show long in the tooth? Because I've never used it in production outside of doing either a podcast or doing this. If I go to do an actual production, I'm building, AWS servers and doing a whole bunch of other stuff. I was just curious what the panelists thought were on these mini mixers. Is it politics to talk this way, or is it just? I'm just talking about the products, not the era.
Careful, you're going to get Alex angry.
Yeah, no,
Alex,
go ahead.
Alex.
So I think it's good. I find that the ATEM Mini itself is, for me, a basic multicam for your desk kind of solution. It's pretty limited as far as the original ATEM Mini with 4 inputs. It is an incredible desk utility to have if you're a teacher, if you're a presenter, if you want to do this kind of show and everything else, it gives you a lot of power. I don't know of any time I've ever actually used it for anything more than that. It is, I have used it in a handful of places where we just need to cut between a couple cameras. We have to remember that not everybody's trying to cut 8 cameras or 12 cameras or whatever. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 cameras for a band or something like that. And so I think that having a $300 solution is pretty powerful. I think that I've definitely used the Extreme for shows, and specifically the Extreme SDI version for shows. And that has been, that has a lot of, utility for me for shows that are simple. They don't have a lot of budget. I just need to, and most importantly, I need the ISO records. So I need to be able to deliver the ISO records and the live cut quickly. I get an H.264 record right out of the Extreme. I'm able to, so those things, and I've had situations where the one of the utilities that the Extreme has that the bigger switchers haven't added, or that I know of, maybe they have and I haven't seen it, but the ability for it to talk to all the other cameras. So I'm, when I have that, I can turn it on, have all the other cameras start rolling with the ATEM, be able to record all the ISOs. It's a really useful tool. So for very small shows, I've definitely used it. And I think that if I was doing a lot of shows that are, when I say small, sub, like sub $5,000, sub $8,000 shows are not something I do a lot of, but when we do them, I don't want to bring a huge kit to solve that problem. Some of the stuff we've done from the recording studio has been with the ATEM SDI version. Using the HDMI version in a real production would be difficult, so.
Without an ATEM, how could I cut to the bird feeder cam?
Yeah,
there would be no way to do that, and then my life would be less happy.
I think we also have to remember that it's not just COVID, but in the world of creators, I think that these tools are really useful to have on your desk. And we shouldn't underestimate how many creators are out there, even if they only have 300 followers. Like me on one of my channels.
Next question.
Paul Wall, who's in Austin, Texas, asks, does this hot rod attachment to your iPhone take us closer to Skynet, or is it a boon to photographers? Tony Northrup, renowned reviewer, says it may best Sony and Nikon. I predict it will not sit well with the office hours community, and includes a YouTube link.
It looks like Alex took a look at this. Alex, what do you think?
A lot of us have talked about this for a long time. So here's what he's showing here, and this is a snap-on, so that it's a camera. It is a camera that snaps onto the front of the iPhone camera. So if you want a larger sensor, you're going to get a better situation. And I think the iPhones are getting more and more ready to use something like this. So it is. I don't know who's making the actual sensor. I actually did the video for the initial launch video for DxO. DxO, of course, made their little. They had a little camera that would attach to the side of your iPhone. I still have a couple in the shrink wrap boxes, the little collector's items. And they still, I every once in a while I find those images on photos. Unbelievable that I was shooting that 10 years ago from an iPhone. So having, the iPhone's got a great sensor, but being able to put a bigger sensor, a lot of us have all thought that if you could put a Super 35 or a full frame sensor, but completely control the interface, like get rid of all the other stuff. The camera manufacturers aren't good at most of the other parts. We just need them to just give us the sensor and the lens mount and let the iPhone take over and let people develop for it. I think that's a huge model. I think this is interesting. I don't know how much it costs or who makes the innards.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how it's using the iPhone rather than just for communications to the internet. It's not using its display, I don't think, the way that it sits on
it
there.
Should. I mean, maybe it doesn't, but it should if it's not. It's it could. The big
maybe
challenge
it does using the display because it goes on the back of the iPhone, so it's using it for display.
When DxO did this, they had to do this super low latency stream through Lightning, and now you have a USB-C, so it's a very doable thing.
And it also, the thing that it's really offering is AI assistance. So I guess it's going up to the cloud so that you can do things like turn day into night. They have an example of there where they shoot a Manhattan skyline in daylight with a bunch of people in the foreground. They have generative AI remove the people and turn it from daytime to nighttime, lights up all the buildings, etc.
I think they just put AI in there to get the investors to give them money.
You think so? But the question is, does it go up to the cloud? And
now with AI.
Yeah.
Does it do all the AI processing in the cloud? It must, I think.
A camera person knows that what we all want is a large sensor on our phone. Mm-hmm. A investor would only understand the little words called AI. Phone, camera, too big a word for investors. AI. They understand. Oh, I understand. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but for fashion photography, where they show that, where they just take a picture of the model and change the dress to green, put spangles on the shoulders, and it does that. What else would you need?
It's a 4/3 inch sensor, so it's not. Again, I think that the challenge is we talk about this a lot. Is half baked bread is still dough, and 4/3 is still, I would argue, is still kind of half baked bread. It's kind of like if you went to Super 35 or specifically full frame on, and you had that attachment go onto your phone, I'll send you the check right now. At 4/3, you're like, maybe it's a little bit more than the 1/2 inch sensor that's inside the phone. So you're kind of like, okay.
Chris Fenwick, your thoughts?
This is the demo. Like all you got to do is show this. the guy shows this shot, and he says, and then you just speak into it. You say, remove the people, make the photo at night, make the water smooth, and boop, boop.
Which
is like, what?
But a lot
Original?
of AI can do that now. Like, that's not even... Like,
I think that's pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
You saying
cool.
you could do that with... I could do that with my iPhone right now?
You could do that. No, I don't know with your iPhone, but I mean, you could upload it to a service and it would do it. Like, it would do that now. I mean, it's
Gemini.
not... Gemini would do that right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
it's not... I'm sure it was new when they designed it a year ago, but AI moves so fast. You know, like it was. But I've already seen demos of that in the last couple of days of just like you just grab a bunch of random objects, say I just want all of these in here and have it at night and everything else, and it puts them all into the.
Let's go to our next question.
David Brady in New York asks, I use Apple Mail for 3 different email accounts. Does anyone have any tips or tricks to auto sort or color code inbound stuff per account to help me sort things out?
Jason Bache is going to help us out here. Jason.
Oh, David, buddy, do not ever try to do this from the client side. You're just going to make yourself crazy. My advice is consolidate. Buy a professional Gmail account, import everything that you can, and if you can't do that, then make your sorting rules server-side. That is going to be so much easier.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, the hard part with mail is that, and I use Apple Mail, and I have 6 accounts that I'm managing at any given time, but I don't color code them. I just kind of work through them. The thing is you can't build folders for anything that you care about if there's any chance that someone's using an Exchange server. And so Microsoft Exchange, there's a bug, and there's no way to give Apple really feedback on it. So you just kind of go, well, like mail doesn't have the feedback button, but there's a bug where if you have an Exchange server, my company happens to have an Exchange server, and the other person has an Exchange server, and you have a folder, it nulls the if you create a folder on your Mac, it will null the image, the message. You just don't get it. Like it appears on your phone, it just doesn't appear on your desktop. Like it's gone. So you have to be very careful of that. But all of the junk that I've accumulated on mailing lists that I can't quite figure out how to unsubscribe from, or maybe I don't want to necessarily unsubscribe from them. I want to be able to search for them when I want to see it, but I don't want it to be on my list. I shovel into folders, so I don't see most of that, and so it stays fairly clean. But I used to put things in like, hey, this is important, and I'd put them into these folders. But then again, there's an Exchange bug that makes that pretty unhappy. Chris Fenwick?
I think it's very telling that Apple doesn't have a feedback button on the Mail app.
Too many users. I think
that
it's just
in and of itself tells you something.
Well, I think
they've done a lot of development in the iOS side of messages. Those whole categories that now AI is sorting your incoming email into on your phone can be really useful if you.
I'm just too afraid to have I have too many pieces of mail that are very important. I don't want anybody. Like I've learned not to filter them. Just like get rid of the junk mail and let the other stuff come in. Like the junk mail, I just shove into. I do have a sorting. Like you use the sorting function in Mail that says, if I get something from this address, put it into this folder. I just do that with everything. Like, everything goes into some folder that I can go, I can search for it. Like, oh, what are the deals with LL Bean? Have they put out the Lindsay Plaid shirt, which I check about once a week. But I don't want to unsubscribe from LL Bean. It happens to be the last email I got. But I don't want to unsubscribe from LL Bean because I have to remember to keep changing, because I want to see what the things are. But I don't want to see it in my main feed. And so I get rid of all of that stuff. And then for the most part, you're just getting the stuff that's related to work and people and things like that.
What's really weird, Alex, is I check for the Lindsay Plaid once a week also.
Do you?
Yeah,
it's a great
we should start a newsletter.
Christmas. How it's a very Christmassy plaid. I'm always amazed when LL Bean doesn't do it, but they only do it about once every 5 years. And so every time they put out they're telling new plaid, and you go up in there going, new plaid. No. It's like, washed out Wallace, and you're like, oh, that's not what I wanted.
I wanted a William Wallace, not a washed out Wallace.
I think, well, it's like a stone washed Wallace or something like that. And I feel, well, if I'm going to send something to John Wallace, then it makes sense, but it's not for me.
Interesting. Next question.
Caleb Groom in Pinehurst, North Carolina asks, I'm using the browser input in vMix quite a bit and controlling it via Companion. What are the folks in the ATEM hardware switching world using for a browser input?
Courtney Gooden, what's your professional preference?
Well, I just use Chrome, slide it over onto my secondary monitor, and that way I can control it. And if I remember, when I'm showing something on the browser, I can hit F11 and go full screen on it. And then I can even use the mouse to scroll smoothly if you want to. If you just hit the scroll wheel on the mouse, and you can use the control to zoom in and so on. That's what I'm using, and I find it works quite well. Just use Chrome on a second monitor.
Alex Lindsay?
Yeah, I like having it on a separate computer. The issue that I like is that I like not to, each computer has a mission when I'm doing something that actually matters, and so I wouldn't want to use vMix on the same computer that I had doing something else, especially Chrome, because Chrome's a little bit of a CPU pig. But like the other one for the higher end stuff that we do, we use this thing called On the Air Web Link. This is from Softron. It's not cheap, but what it'll let you do is have up to 4 running. It'll also include alpha channels if you have HTML5, and so you can do key fill out. You can switch between those outputs. And that will send those web links out via SDI so that you can make them available to your switcher if you want to as well.
Alex, next question.
Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia asks, if I were to suggest an appliance computer for the House of Worship, would it be better to get an M4 Mac Mini or a MacBook Air? House of Worship already has an M1 MacBook Pro. We need an additional appliance.
Zach Jeffers, what is your recommendation?
Well, I think it's important to think about the environment that it's in. If this appliance is something that people are going to be using and touching and interfacing with, sometimes just getting an iMac is easier because you're not having to buy the screen, you're not having to buy all the different stuff and keep it organized. And I say Mac Mini because you say that they already have a Mac in play. So if they don't care about mixing PCs and Macs and all that, you can get an appliance PC, a mini PC for a couple $100 and be done with it. Just use remote desktop. If you need to interface with it, think about the accessories you have to buy with it. Mac Mini, the M4 Mini is a great appliance as well. If you want to do headless, you can just throw an HDMI, dongle on it, and then you can just remote into it. But if there's going to be an interface, think about the other accessories that you have to go with it. And if the House of Worship has a technical director or somebody that maintains the IT side of it, Windows is definitely a viable option too with a mini PC.
Alex Lindsay.
If you don't have a relatively good IT professional managing your computers, you should not buy a PC ever. So if you are technical, we have a bunch of people here on here. Zach's technical, Courtney's technical. We have a lot of technical people here who know how to take care of their computers. But if you're not that person, don't buy a PC. It's too much. It's too much complexity for I watch average people use them, and how the amount of viruses and broken things that they accumulate is kind of amazing. When you deal with technical people, there's a lot of use for it, and there's a lot of technical people here that are watching the show going, "Oh, but anybody could use it." Not really, So I would stick on a Mac. I would absolutely get an M4. Don't buy a laptop, in my opinion, and that's because you're paying a lot of extra money for the convenience of a laptop. You're giving up tons of I/O. So the Air is only going to have 2 USB-Cs. A Mac M4 Mac Mini is going to have 4 Thunderbolts on the back, two on the front. You're going to want those things as an appliance. You're going to have the Mac Mini will also have the Mac Mini will also have an HDMI output. It'll have Ethernet input. It'll have that, a regular power, so it is right now, dollar for dollar, the M4 Mac Mini base unit is the most powerful computer for the money that exists. And I have tested a lot of things because I have to buy. I potentially have, I've been working on a project that may need thousands of them, so it's what it is doesn't matter. It's like, if it's a PC, if it's Linux, it's whatever, we're looking at all the different things. But when you stack up, especially because you're doing AV work, if you're saying, I want to use audio and video, and I want it to be at a high performance for the price, there's nothing that's competing with the M4 Mac Mini right now. And so you can decide, you can pay a little less, but to be honest, if I was going to pay less, I would still just get a used or a refurbished M1 for $250. If you really, for what you're doing, you'd probably be fine. The advantage of that also, if you have lots of people using it, is that you have monitors, keyboards, so on and so forth. If someone breaks the keyboard or breaks the monitor or whatever, pours something on it, it's just a keyboard. Like, it's not the whole computer. So I would, and it's much easier for us to deal with it. I only use PCs when I walk out of the house. Like, I only use laptops when I walk out of the
Freudian
house.
slip.
Yeah, exactly. I only use laptops when I walk out of the house. I will not, at home, once I'm in an office, I have real computers.
Courtney, you're up.
We caught him. You see, I only use PCs.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you want an appliance, you don't want something that you got to plug 30 dongles in to use it. And so that complicates things because, in the Mac world, they like less ports is always better, they always say.
Does that thing have a port on every side?
This
There's
one
like
does.
a port on every surface, Courtney.
This one does. That's why I say
ports.
it's an appliance. It has no dongle. Look, it's got 2 Ethernet ports. It's got 3 USB-C Type A ports. It's got 3 video monitor ports. And it's this size and costs under $300. Under $300, you can get 3 of these for the price of with this many ports on a Mac Mini. So if you want to go the Mac route, fine. Just pass the plate at the house of worship an additional time, and you'll have enough to pay for those Mac Minis.
Next question.
Kyle Hammond in Chicago, Illinois writes, I'm curious if anyone has used Comcast Mobile or heard anything about it. I heard they are using the same towers as Verizon and T-Mobile. They're offering me a free line, which is why I'm curious.
Jason Bache, dive in.
Okay. Yes. Comcast is an MVNO, which is a mobile virtual network operator. They are using Verizon's towers at the moment, and I will caution you to remind you that Comcast is actually Comcast NBC Universal, and they are mostly an ad delivery company. And the idea that your cell phone that knows more about you than anything else in this earth, probably than you could ever say about yourself, would go to a company like Comcast just creeps me out. If that doesn't bother you, go for it.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, I think they use Verizon. I had Spectrum, which is, I think, similar to Comcast. I don't know if they're under the same company, but I had Spectrum Mobile for a while because I had them supplying my internet. I switched recently to Mint Mobile, which is also an NVMO, which uses T-Mobile's towers because the Verizon towers in my neighborhood, while it has good coverage over the United States, some places are dead spots, and I was in a dead spot, and T-Mobile just happens to be better in my house. So I'm happier with T-Mobile, and I tell you, Spectrum, because AT&T came into these neighborhoods with fiber, Spectrum has gotten desperate, and they're offering free internet for life now. If you subscribe to 4 of their mobile phone packages, 4 phones on theirs, so free internet for life. They are losing subscribers. They call me every week asking me if I want to switch back and offering me all kinds of deals to switch back. And I say, can you give me gigabit up and down for $54 a month? No. So I'm sticking with the AT&T fiber right now for my internet and using the T-Mobile via Mint Mobile for my cellular.
Zach Jeffers.
Yeah, the thing to remember is that all these resellers and secondary carriers on top of these networks, they have a different priority than the organic customers to that service. So if you're worried about the consistency and reliability of your service, always keep that in mind that you're going to be second tier to the organic customers on that service. And when things get, like if you go to an event where there's lots of people, you may not have calls come through. You may have to wait for your text messages to come through. And I've experienced it. I've seen it on multiple occasions. Just keep that in mind.
Alex Lindsay.
I mean, if it's free, it's fine, but I wouldn't pay for anything that they were giving you, in that area. The one thing I would say about Courtney is Spectrum couldn't give me a connection, and I would, because I value my time and my sanity. I've worked as someone who has to deal with people with different connections, the one that we know, like if someone says, if we're going to bring somebody in over Zoom and they say, oh, I'm on Spectrum as a consumer, like a regular Spectrum connection, not a business one, which is fine. But if they have a regular one, we just know that they're toast. Like there's no, like this is not going to work. And the problem with it is it depends on the time. Spectrum over subscribes all of their services so that at 4:00 in the afternoon or 8:30 in the morning, you get no bandwidth. It's fine if you test it at 10 or noon, but there'll be windows where you're getting 1 megasecond. It's just the worst. It's the worst service in the United States.
Coming to you on Spectrum, I will read the next piece. We are attacking your questions. Don't forget, this show is entirely run by your questions. So if you have not gotten into Macan in the back end on our Q&A system, you really should. Go to officehours.global/join. We'll send you an email, and it's a very simple trail of crumbs to get into that. Once you're in the show, you get some advantages, including the ability to get into the back end, to the chat that happens during our show every day. And there's so much more information going on there than you won't believe it. So officehours.global/join. Next question.
David Brady in New York asks, going off the grid, what kind of runtime do powerbanks provide? My buddy has a food truck and needs lights, a food warmer, point-of-sale system, and digital signage, and he includes a link.
Boy, that seems like some big power draw stuff. Zach Jeffers, do you have a suggestion for him?
So I've been to a lot of off-the-grid events. Being an off-road, pretty much nothing we attend has power, internet, water, all those things. And unless you want to have a bonfire next to your trailer, I would not suggest using these battery banks for anything other than your computers and your Starlink, because that's all it's going to be good for. The problem with them is the amp draw. It's not the wattage. They could say that they're X numbers of tens of thousands of wattage or whatever, but it's the amp draw. If you're talking about food warmers, you're going to be pulling 20 amps like right off that battery, and you're going to smoke that thing, and then you're going to be putting out fires with sand. And I've seen it. Like, it happens. And so not a single person out in the desert or out in the mountains or anywhere else runs anything but a generator, because they have to have the high amperage to plug their trailers into. So for your computers, your POS systems, your Starlink, they work great. But for anything else, you're going to want to run a Jenny.
Yeah, I think, boy. Alex?
Yeah, the most popular one we see at a lot of, if you're at a some kind of food tent or whatever at a farmer's market or everything else, it's the Honda 2200 or the 2000. So this is what you see a lot of. Some people will get bigger ones. I don't know if this is exactly the one that you would see. I can't buy it here because it's illegal in California. Evidently, they're trying to protect us from ourselves. Not that I'm bitter, but if you go to Vegas, you could buy one and then bring it back. So the 2200, it's pretty quiet. It makes very little noise. It produces, most likely enough, the thing that I would worry about is your digital signage, but particularly your food warmer. Food warmers often take way more power than you think that they're going to take. So suddenly, everything's fine, but your food warmer is 1,700 watts or 1,500 watts or whatever to run it. And so the food warmer is the thing that I would worry about the most. But to follow up with Zach, I don't know. I wouldn't worry as much about things catching fire, although they might. But what I would say is that won't last very long. It'll be like 30 minutes on almost any major food, anything. So I would get a generator for the key things that are going to pull up a lot. Figure out, you have to take all the things you're using, calculate all of the wattage, and then multiply that by 2 or 3. So like whatever that is, if you think you're going to take up 2,200 watts, you need a generator that's 6,600, minimum 44, if not 6,600 watts. And so then that kind of drives you towards the generator that you need. Then you could have what's cool is to have some kind of Anchor or DJI or whatever, big old, or Ecobee or whatever, not Ecobee, Eco something or other,
EcoFlow.
EcoFlow. Get those, and those run all of your digital stuff, and it means that you can turn the generator off and still have your internet and your computer and all the other things between times. So that's useful. But the food warmer and the digital signage was the thing that I looked at and going, no, I don't think you can use a bank for that.
Where you are, or I don't know where your friend's food truck is. Any size generator you want. There's a 3,500. There's a 11,500 watt, 5,000, 9,500. And then for what Alex was saying, when you don't need the big guns and you want it a little quieter, you turn the generator off. And these are okay. It's not a golf quiet generator. The Harbor Freight Predator series also has the power bank. So if you just want to run the point of sale and the Starlink and stuff off a battery. And again, they have like 5 different sizes. We talked about this yesterday.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, I mean, there's the jackeries that tie into solar panels, which you can put on the top to keep a bunch of batteries charged, either lead acid or lithium ion. If for food warming, though, this is what I've used even on cooking shows. These are great. These are little self-contained butane camping stoves that the little butane cylinder goes on the right side here. I keep one for emergency use. It has adjustable. You can adjust the heat. It's propane power. The little cans cost you very little. Self-igniting has a automatic igniter on it. You don't even have to carry matches, and that'll keep your food warm or heated or fried, whatever you need. And they're $20, and the cans of propane are pretty cheap.
Hey, if you're looking for something extra to watch this evening, we're doing another one of our special shows. I'm talking to an old friend of mine, Ian Anderson, who's down in Australia, in Brisbane, and we're going to be talking about his book that's about to come out called AI for Creative Production. It's a really interesting look at the kind of the world of AI today in terms of how creatives can fight back against all the erosion of things being done by AI in the creative space. So tune in tonight, 6 p.m. right here. Next question.
Jason Robert Shaw in Sarasota, Florida asks, it's Giving Tuesday. How can we donate to officehours.global? Hint, it's officehours.global/donate.
What a lovely question. Alex Lindsay, talk to us about this.
We are a 501c3. You can go to officehours.global/donate. This is a great time as we get ready for next year to know how far we can get into next year. It does make a huge difference. So we obviously sell hats and shirts to kind of keep things going, but also the donations, and we've already had a few really great donations this year, and we really want to thank everybody who has donated to Office Hours. But this is a great time if you're looking for, especially the end of the year, an opportunity to put some of that money, that extra money that you have laying around that you need to write off. We're here to help, and so it does. And if you're wondering where all the money goes, servers, the mail that you go out. There's no salaries. Everybody here is a volunteer. It literally just goes to the things that make a difference for the community. So if you're willing to give, that would be fantastic. officehours.global/donate.
Next question.
Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York asks, I have a vMix running ointment on MSI gaming laptop and everything is up to date. I'm wondering if I just use an external monitor only and close the laptop lid, would that help with the CPU, GPU in the long run?
Somebody named a program Ointment? That's interesting to me. I didn't know that. Zach Jeffers, what do you think about it?
I didn't know MSI had waterproof laptops that could take ointment. If you're running vMix on a laptop, the worst thing you could possibly do is close the lid. So the laptops are designed to dissipate heat through their keyboards and out the back through the fans. So by closing the lid, for one, you're going to thermal limit your CPU and GPU, and it's going to throttle down, and your performance is going to go through the floor. So don't do that. It could also, if you're running super hot, it could destroy your LCD screen. So that's another issue you want to avoid. But to create a more stable platform using a laptop, the thing you're going to want to do is to elevate the laptop off the surface so that there's airflow underneath it. You're going to want to make sure the vent ports are all clean and free of dander. And you're going to want to, there are certain cases where if you reduce the resolution of the main screen, because they usually come with like a 2K screen or, something like that at a high refresh rate, is to tone that down a bit, put it down to 60 hertz, put it to 1080, do something like that. That'll reduce the strain on the GPU side. And for the output of vMix, it's not going to really impact much of anything. So you're stuck with the performance you have with the lid open. Keep it that way and keep the thing running healthy.
Courtney Gooden.
And you can turn off the screen, the internal screen of the laptop without closing the lid. So you can do that, and just select your external screen as your primary screen and the only screen as a single screen setup. So that'll reduce some overhead on the GPU, but not much. And that way you don't have to worry about heat dissipating through the keyboard, which a lot of them, as was mentioned by Zach, do. So you can leave the lid open and turn off the screen. To save power and to save, to save a little bit of GPU, but not that much. Most of them can power two screens without, breaking a sweat.
Most of the time, it's less than 5% difference if you want a number to go with it.
There you go. Next question.
Paul Walhus in Austin, Texas asks, should I update my Mac to Tahoe 26.1?
Ooh, everybody has a different opinion on that. Jason Bass, what's yours?
So if it's mission critical, if you make your living on it, if you're using it in production, then no. For everyone else, I'd say more or less yes. If you really want to be confident that it's going to be stable, back everything up, do a clean load, and don't update it. Purely just bring it to 0 and then bring it all the way back up and then reinstall your apps, and you probably won't have any problems.
Zach Jeffers.
Yeah, so I have 3 different Macs going right now. I got a MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, and then a Mac Studio behind me. The Mac Studio I've left where it was. It's not on Tahoe. The Mac Air was an upgrade to Tahoe, and then the MacBook Pro was a start from scratch. So I have kind of experience with all 3 levels, and I haven't had any problems with Tahoe whatsoever, except for the interface changes. Those are just asinine. Like the amount of borders they've added, the amount of padding they've added, the weirdness with some of the corners they've added is just drives me bonkers. So my studio behind me is going to stay where it's at because that's my daily driver. And if I'm working in an environment where I feel stressed just because they added 3 different borders to something that didn't need any, then it's going to stay there. So, but in production, like Jason said, don't upgrade until you're 1,000% sure that everything's going to work perfectly for you. But as my daily drivers, I haven't had any problems except for those things that really trigger my ADD.
Chris Fenwick.
So if you were wondering, Zach doesn't like borders. Once again, the contrarian, and watch, I'm going to say something, and real quickly, Alex is going to raise his hand to counter what I'm about to say. The machine I'm on is Tahoe. I just did the upgrade. I admire Jason's calendar and free time that he can wipe a computer to nothing to upgrade the OS. I get it. I just hit the upgrade button, and it's working fine.
Everybody's different. You know, your tolerance for risk and what do you have balanced on your computer that you're about to upgrade? And I agree 100%. If it's mission critical and you will be out of business if your upgrade fails, you're going to be much more conservative. I left my machine on auto update for about 4 years, and it did fine from Apple because they're usually pretty tested. Twice in that period, I had to back up and go to an older OS because something happened, but that's twice in 4 years. I can risk that. Not everybody else can. Alex?
I'm on Sonoma 14.7.4. It's working great. Just let you know. I have another computer.
I'm on Snow Leopard. I upgrade?
I moved there from Snow Leopard. So I.
Are your buttons still blue and glossy?
Yeah, exactly. My M3 Ultra behind me is on Tahoe because of a bunch of stuff that I'm using there. So it's not that I don't use the most modern one, but the one that has all the different apps and all the audio apps and all the other stuff, I just let it sit. If there's something I absolutely need, I will upgrade a computer to get to the feature that I needed to get to. But otherwise, I stay where I'm
at. Jason Bass, your thoughts?
For the record, this Mac Mini Studio that I'm coming to you right now on is on Sonoma 14.8.2, and it works perfectly.
He's ahead of me. It's at 14.8.2. I'm still at 14.7.4.
We could do this all day long, but we're going to the next question.
Dan Browning in Victor, Montana asks, has anyone had experience with this Listen Technologies RX1 Auri Receiver?
Alex Lindsay, what do you think?
I haven't seen it. A lot of us have used Comtech for this solution, but this is a Bluetooth-based version of this. So it's not using the typical, frequencies that we would normally see in assistive learning or assistive listening. This is the kind of the range that the transmitters have, which is much further than I would expect to get from a 250 feet from Bluetooth, from what they're laying out. I think that's a best case scenario.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
So I think that I would worry about the Bluetooth would bother me if I was in a classroom or a small room or a small auditorium that probably wasn't deeper than 40 or 50 feet. I might give it a shot. I'd want someone to do it. If I was going to get something like this, I'd want someone to send me, like the reseller, to bring me a demo and let me set it all up and let me test it.
Next question.
Danny Grizzle in Longview, Texas asks, I saw a video on YouTube from a shooter who complained of quality problems with SmallRig. I've also noticed a degradation, especially with the lightweight Hawk quick release stuff. What is the panel's experience?
Alex Lindsay.
I have a lot of SmallRig stuff. I mean, I have thousands of dollars worth of SmallRig stuff. And it started because I got one thing that attached to my that was built around my phone. And then I started building around it, and then I just didn't want to change the system because sometimes the spacing and everything else starts to be different between rigs. And so I kind of just borrowed. If I started over again, I probably wouldn't use SmallRig for it. But I have so much there that it's kind of like having a lot of lenses. I've got so many materials and things that it doesn't necessarily make sense to change. Overall, I find that the newer stuff that SmallRig builds is actually a pretty good build rate. Now, I have to admit that I am pretty good at taking care of hardware. So I think that part of it is my first job out of high school was shipping and receiving for an electronics company, and I think it kind of built into my DNA how I pack things, how I work, how I do work on things. So my stuff tends to last a long time because I don't beat on it, and so I watch people at every film crew and the way that they manage their hardware. I'm just like, I would never do that, and of course it's not going to. Now the high end stuff that you spend a lot of money on, you can do that. It's a different rating of steel. It's a whole bunch of other things. Overall, I think that the older arms, so the older kind of the Noga arm copies that they just the way that they were built didn't work as well. The newer ones work great. The one relatively good for me. So I think that SmallRig is doing what many Chinese companies do, which is they started cheap and they're slowly moving up the food chain. I think for inexpensive but good stuff, I think Condor Blue is a higher quality build than SmallRig by a lot. I think it's kind of like newer, newer on one side, then SmallRig, then Tilta, then Blue Condor, is that right?
Condor Blue, yeah.
I always say I want a Blue Condor Blue, and then you start getting into wooden camera and other ones that are a couple steps above all of those when it comes to the quality. So it just depends on how much you're willing to spend, how hard are you going to use it. I don't use my stuff every day, so it's probably a little less pressure too.
Zach Jeffers.
Yeah, just to remind people that there's a lot of copycats happening in China right now, especially in the production world, where all these accessories and knickknacks have really taken off over the last few years. And so right now there actually is with SmallRig a big copy manufacturing situation where you can't really tell the difference. And whereas SmallRig may be using higher quality aluminum or whatever, the lower end one might just be using some whatever pot metals laying around the factory. So just keep that in mind. I think I've seen the video that you're referring to, and I don't think they give that kind of leniency to the China product that they're experiencing. That might be the situation.
Also, I use a good little bit of hot clock stuff. I started doing it when I was shooting on my phone more and more, and it's such a small, that hot clock little connector. It's a little lever system. I got really good results for about the first year or so, but it did not wear particularly well. Now, on the other hand, the phone cages I've gotten from SmallRig have been absolutely solid as a rock. They all work exactly the same way after years that they did the first day. So I think I've kind of written this off to they thought this was a good idea. They designed it. It seemed to work. But over the course of time, it appears to me to be if you tighten the bottom quarter 20 too tight, somehow it puts some pressure on the base of those little small hawk locks such that they do not match up as well. When I loosen them a little bit, they work much better. And I've had a couple of them that just failed after maybe 100 or so mounts. And so I look at that as, that wasn't one of their best products. But that doesn't mean some other products aren't good. And I think this is true of all manufacturing now. You're going to get some designs that they think they're going to be good and they're going to try them out, but they don't prove out to be the best solution. I'm not going back to those because they just don't do as well as some other ones, in my opinion. Next question.
Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia asks, next Sunday, I'm streaming House of Worship from a guest church to Zoom. I only have access to 3 iPhones. This is all I have. How can I make the best out of this situation?
Alex Lindsay, help him out.
Cinemaker might be a good solution for this, of being able to see them all and stream them. The one thing I would say that if I was going to focus on something for a house of worship and I had 3 iPhones, I would probably use one iPhone and get really good audio. So make sure that, really not, you can easily get stretched out trying to figure out how to get all these phones working, or you can make sure that they've got a great lav and you figured the audio out and you've got an audio interface and you've got a single phone that's placed. And the big thing that I do a lot when I'm designing things, not just for house of worship, but for other types of things, is if you think about your stage, one of the things I try to do is persuade people. Typically, now you may not be able to do this because if you have pews, it's really hard. But if you have chairs, I try to persuade people to build a center aisle here, and then I put my camera right there. So, and no one complains about the seat kills because they don't think about it. It's a subtle thing. You'll move all your chairs. You'll have the same number of chairs. There's just not a center area. You split that out, and then you put your camera right in the middle, right up front, and you get a nice framing of it. If you're only going to use one camera, or if you want a main camera, the people walking in aren't going to notice. Like, they never notice that there's a split in the center. The only people that notice are people who used to run the event. Like, why are we doing this thing here? But you put the camera there. There's no seat kills. Everybody gets to see it, and you get a great shot of the stage or the area there that you want to be part of. So that's what I'd recommend. I'd stick with one camera. I don't know why if someone's just standing there talking, I'm not sure if you need multiple cameras, to be honest. What most people are doing is they're listening to it. I mean, that's the behavior that we see the most with any house of worship, whether it's Buddhist or Christian or whatever it is. It is typically people are listening to the sermon. Very rarely are they actually watching it.
Next question.
Aaron Cody in St. Louis, Missouri asks, where do you hide profit on a quote? I found that adding markup to labor can cause consistency headaches with repeat clients, but there's only so much I can reasonably charge for gear. Thoughts on a service fee or similar?
Courtney Gooden's going to start us off here. Courtney?
Yeah, don't itemize your gear. That's one place where you can hide some profit, because just say, includes enough gear to do this job. And because that is one of the few places labor has an issue. And like in California, you're in Missouri, but in California, there are certain labor rules where you're not allowed to include labor within a total price. You have to separate it out because you have to pay all those people and pay payroll taxes and all of them. They really frown on independent contractor deals or in California for labor. So be careful about that, because the state can come after you later for all those payroll taxes that you didn't deduct from those employees, and you will regret it. So not only hiding your profit in labor can be dangerous down the line, because a year later you may find yourself being audited, and suddenly all your profits go away. So I guess build it into equipment that you own, that you've already depreciated, and can offer at a reasonable rental price, an aggregate rental price. Don't itemize things, because if you itemize things, they'll go outside and say, hey, but I see these cameras are for rent at this rental house for half of what you're charging me. So, be careful about that. Just give them a package deal and say it'll include this many cameras, this type of service, and make sure that you do have enough equipment and backup equipment to support it that's already depreciated.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Courtney. I don't itemize. I go one way or the other. If you don't, I generally don't itemize it. I say, this is the kit. If there's a core kit that I'll charge X amount of dollars for, then there's if they added extra things, we need a Ronin 4D or we need something else, that gets itemized. But if it's my core kit that I'm all the stuff that's there, but it's something that all that hardware has been paid for, before. So it's a good deal for them. It's a good deal for me. I have a pre-production, charge that is, it's close to what you would call a service fee. There is time that it takes to answer calls and be on meetings and everything else, and we account for that in a pre-production cost that is a couple of us working on the project. So I guess that would be as close to a service fee that you'd have. And I don't know if anybody's ever asked me about that. A service, we used to say service fee, and people would just their accountants would redline that out. When we called it pre-production, then it all made sense to everybody. Like it was an interesting, just changing the name and putting it in a different section seemed to solve that problem pretty quickly. And so if they see it as kind of an add-on, then people just unadd it, but if they see it as part of like production, as pre-production, there's things that have to get done. But I literally have never had to defend pre-production. It's just required for a show. As far as I don't really expose internal cost versus external cost of, who's employees, who's freelancers, there's just a cost that I'm charging per every person. I mean, usually it's calculated against what, and sometimes with some people, like I'll have to change people for a show. And some people I'll take a hit on because this is what I told them it was going to cost, or this is what it should cost, but I'm now don't have that person. And so I'm going to pay more for someone. I don't go back to the client and say, now I have to charge more. I just take the hit, so the client gets the one thing about corporate clients for me is that what they really care about is the number not changing. So that, that you can charge a little bit more to be safe. But what they don't want is for you to come back and say, well, it's another $3,000 or whatever. That just makes them absolutely bonkers because they got that dollar number approved. So you got to make sure that you're kind of approaching it that way. I have to say that generally the way that I've done this in the past over the last 20 years is the clients that I get that I have ongoingly, I'm constantly answering. I mean, I don't change their price, or unless they do something different, I don't really change. They get the thing for the same price. I very rarely move up. I get new clients. New clients pay the new price. And admittedly, sometimes I slowly work the old clients out, or we move them up. Like we find at some point we're like, hey, we got to make a change. But by the time I've had that conversation with them, I already have, they're a smaller percentage of my business, and that's kind of how we kind of wrap it up. And a lot of times we've had probably 80% of the time the clients have been okay with it. Like especially if it hasn't been for a couple of years. If you do it all the time, they get a little edgy, and you have to do it way in advance. Like don't do it right before the show, which we've seen.
Chris Fenwick.
Yeah, Aaron, if you don't know the story about the C47, the reason we call clothespins C47s, actually, this may have been Courtney that did this, because I know it's an old Hollywood story, Courtney. They were putting clothespins as expendables, and the studio said, we're not paying for clothespins. They changed it to C47, and no bookkeeper wanted to ask what a C47 was. And they just started paying for it.
Hey, thank you all for being here today and watching the show. As always, we are incredibly grateful for everybody who makes this possible, including our amazing producers. That's those of you who are watching the show and add your questions in and vote on those questions to determine our run of show and what we talk about and what we go into the most depth about. So thank you for all those questions. To the panelists, unbelievable amounts of expertise show up here every single day and is given away for free. And we hugely appreciate each and every person who comes in and applies and acts as a panelist here on the show. And our last constituency, never forgotten, our people in the back end, the talented technicians, planners, organizers, the people that we meet with when you're not seeing the show to try to get the show organized. An amazing group. So to all of those technicians behind the scenes, our back end crew, thank you so very much. If you had gone around to get the information you got today, you would have traveled 26,000 miles. That's the Tlaloc Traversal today. That's 42,000 kilometers and 205 million bananas for scale. We'll be back here doing the same thing tomorrow. Thank you for watching. See you then.
Nice that was job. A premature banana.
Yeah.
Nicely delivered, Courtney.
That was next level painful.
It's next level dad joke.
An oldie but a goodie, yes.
That might have been a granddad joke.
Yes. All right.
Let's see everybody.
Bye-bye.
Still want to see the light switch rave.